All right, good morning, everybody. And we are here with Sharon and Lynn, and we are reading Awake, It's Your Turn by Angelo DeLullo. Uh, and I know this is the second time I've been through this book, and let me tell you what, it is really good. All right.
You know what? It's helpful to have all different points of views too.
Oh, yeah,
A different way of a different direction.
exactly. All right, so we got it up on the screen.
Okay, you want me to read so you can rest
Sure.
a little?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I clearly remember the exact moment it dawned on me that there was a certain possibility, a way of experiencing reality that was altogether outside of the anxious, uncomfortable ways I had learned to view myself and my life up to that point. I was a first year college student and I was sitting in a course called Introduction to Eastern Religions. I genuinely enjoyed the class and thought Eastern religions were fascinating, although the fascination was limited to intellectual curiosity. One day, the usual
Sorry.
professor was out due to an illness, so we had a substitute lecturer. He was an American who was practicing who was a practicing Buddhist at a local temple. I just want to say Buddhism and the Course are very similar. Do you know that? I guess you
Oh,
do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a Buddhist for many years.
Now, you were a Buddhist for many years, so you already knew that it was just mind here, right?
Oh, yeah, that's why when I saw when I read the course, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. This is absolutely, when I read Nothing Real Can Be Threatened, Nothing Unreal Exists,
Right. You got it
I,
right away.
right away I knew it. Hey,
Yeah, I didn't have any of that. So I was like, mind. A lot of people have said to me, what's a mind? It's just awareness. That's all it is. It's just when we're looking for it, the only part that's looking that doesn't know what it is the ego, because the noticer always sees what it sees. So I had read and heard about these topics before and found them interesting. What he was talking about seemed similar to what I'd previously heard. Then something unexpected happened. It struck me in an instant that what he was talking about wasn't a topic, nor was it a subject or a set of beliefs. He was pointing to a way out of the usual way of living, thinking, and trying to survive as a person that has caused me so much pain. It was a way out of suffering completely. I don't know how I knew this, but suddenly it was exquisitely obvious. Up until that moment, the whole endeavor was trying to be a human with all the accompanying expectations, trying to fit in, trying to be happy when I wasn't, when I really wasn't, was all I had ever known. In an instant, it had become obvious that I had been living in a sort of false reality. At the moment, it clicked that I had been trying to live inside of a very small conceptual world, one which has been causing me tremendous pain. I was listening to the lecture, Buddhism, blah, blah, suffering, enlightenment, blah, blah, and suddenly the words he was saying faded in the background as if someone had turned down the volume. At that same time, the surroundings seemed to dim. It was almost as if color in the periphery had faded into black and white. There was something, hi, Morse. There was something extraordinarily alive and deeply present that was palpable in the room. The aliveness wasn't otherworldly or anything magical. It was actually remarkably familiar, yet markedly potent. All my senses seemed to be acutely attuned to the experience. Time stopped, As the substitute professor was talking, I realized he was conveying a message totally outside of the spiritual religious material. It was as if he had walked right up to me, ignoring everyone else in the room, and said, "This has nothing to do with the subject matter I seem to be lecturing on. All this suffering, this mental prison, and all of what you take yourself to be. Yeah, it's not like that at all. You can wake up out of that. This can happen at any time. It's not about religion or spirituality. Although he didn't say these exact words to me, I responded as if he had. My hand shot up. I began rattling off questions before he nodded for me to speak. This that you're talking about, is it real? I mean, does that really happen? He locked eyes with me, and his gaze told me he knew that I had gotten his subliminal communication. He paused before answering to make such an understood that the gravity of his answer there was no doubt. He continued to look at me for a couple seconds longer and then went on lecturing. I had no clue at the moment what would come of the seed that has just been planted, but I knew beyond doubt that this was real. I also knew intuitively that I would find a way to make it a reality in this lifetime. It has taken me many years to really grasp how profound that moment was. As I will describe later, this little taste was only a minuscule foreshadowing of what's to come, but I'm grateful beyond words that it happened. Although I didn't appreciate the full magnitude of what had been transmitted to me in the moment, a fire had been lit inside me. I didn't know, I didn't, wait a minute, I didn't know what it was or how to attain it, but I somehow knew that there was something far more real than this story I had always believed about myself and my life. I also had intuition that if it wasn't somewhere else, I wouldn't have to join some special group to realize this possibility. I didn't know the path or what would be required. I can't see, wait a minute, of me to attain it, but it didn't matter. That one taste was enough. It was confirmation of a living truth, which, with a depth that sense, was infallible.
Okay,
Please,
so just can
please
we just stop for a
understand that when
second? Hello. Yeah. First I'm gonna do something different here with this share. For some reason, I got my whole screen shared, which is not what I wanted. So let's get that. So we got the actual, just the, no. Okay. All right. So yeah, this, he was probably a young guy. He was probably, freshman in college, um, maybe 18, 19 years old. And it's interesting, the university, I went to Regis University in Denver, and uh, that's so interesting to me. But uh, we had to take Eastern religions and Western religions. And it was a business. I was taking a business course or business degree. And in the business degree, you had to take Eastern and Western religions because they wanted you to understand the type of, the thoughts behind a lot of the thoughts that people had that you would be having business with. So if you were going to be having business with Buddhist people or people from the East, you would have a kind of an understanding of their point of view. Or if you were working with, someone that was Muslim or Christian or, the Western religions, which Islam is a Western religion. Um, Judaism is a Western religion. So we had to take those classes so that we had some understanding of how these people were thinking. But before I took those classes, I had already been involved in Buddhism because just by coincidentally, when I was a kid, I I spent a lot of time over in Boulder, Colorado, where a guy who was a teacher had come to America to start centers and do teachings. His name was Chogyam Trungpa, and uh, he was giving lectures over there, and it was free. So, I went and I was entranced too by him, by his words, by his teachings, by his followers. And um, the thing about Buddhism is, yes, they talk about suffering a lot, but the suffering, and people will think, well, Buddhists say, suffering is a part of the path and suffering is, whatever. Um, but he taught it a little bit differently in that, suffering was a thing that impelled you toward awakening or enlightenment. So, you know, a lot of folks, don't understand that about Buddhism. But this guy, Angelo Dululo, in a class in school, had a mystical experience, and the mystical experience had him in communication with the fellow who was substitute teaching the class. And I just find that so fascinating. And I really wonder who that fellow was. And I really wonder if he had the same experience with Angelo, because it sounded like there was some kind of a psychic connection between the two of them. And uh, Angelo assumed that the guy knew what he was thinking, and maybe not. Maybe it was imagination. But it doesn't really matter, because he got the idea that uh, you could end suffering, which is really what the whole idea of Buddhism is, the end of suffering, um, not, study of suffering or acceptance of suffering. So anyway, I think um, that's a very interesting experience that he had. And it just shows how ready he was for this experience. So anyway, that's really all I had to say about that.
Well, Robert wrote, "Can you make the reading window full screen? Is it full screen or no?" I mean, I have a Chromebook, so it's harder for me to see this.
Well, let me look and see. What am I doing? No, I left the book. Come on, stop doing this to me.
I know about I think Lynn has read I can't even say it, the Uranic, you know what she's talking about. Urantia.
The
Ranchula.
Ranch book?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Urantia.
Yeah, I was really into the Ranch book back in the early 70s. So yeah. What did I do here? Did I close the book? Maybe I closed the book. Oh, we'll get her back open. Let's see. So let me see if I can see how the reading window looks to you guys. Because show the meeting.
It's fine now then.
Okay, when I switched over, did it make it
Yeah,
better? Yeah,
yeah,
because I accidentally put it on the wrong
yeah.
the wrong share, so I was sharing the whole screen and not just the book. So okay, thank you.
Well, I
Okay,
read, please understand that well, I'm going to read it. Should I go on like there or
sure. Yeah, from a way out.
a way out? Please understand that when I say a way out, I'm not talking about escape from life or from our responsibilities as humans. I'm talking about a way out of false reality instead of beliefs that had imprisoned me for years. I just knew somehow that there was an exit point being described that would lead to a life much freer and much more real than anything I had heretofore experienced. I also knew that what this lecture was pointing to, almost no one knew. If they did, why hadn't I heard of it before? Why weren't people shouting it from the rooftops? If this possibility was common knowledge, why was this not being taught in schools? Why would physicians and therapists not recommend it for the endless numbers of people adrift in an ocean of angst and suffering? I sensed that the others in the room thought he was talking about the subject of enlightenment, just as I had always assumed when listening to such lectures, instead of living reality of it. I'm pointing this out not to make awakening seem unattainable, but to clarify why I had never heard of it in the way before. It was because most people simply don't know that this possibility exists. I want to point out one other thing about this experience. Although this transmission occurred in the context of a lecture on Eastern religions, specifically Buddhism, I somehow knew even in that moment that it wasn't about religion. Although Buddhism may be a vehicle for some people, it is only a vehicle. The living truth itself, this vast reality that I sensed in that moment, has nothing to do with spirituality or religion. It was far more intimate and familiar than it was mystical. It had to do with me and the way I was suddenly relating to the rest of reality, a way that felt more real than I had remembered real feeling. It was as if the very core of what I was, which I had somehow learned to avoid looking directly into, was itself the portal to interconnectedness with everything. It's brilliant. I couldn't have described it as such in the moment, but intuitively it was quite obvious this was a potent taste. It's funny because when you get a taste of what you are constantly driven to find it or be with it. It's like the hunger for God is in every, well, not consciously, but it's in every being. It would have to be. The first and the hunger for formlessness. I mean, to be in form is like being in a straitjacket. We have to go to the bathroom. That's a pain in the neck sometimes. Every part of being a human being can be. Now, when you realize you're just a vehicle in the body and it's used to help you communicate, then it's not taken as seriously. You don't have to look at every ailment you have or every problem you have. You just kind of give it to Holy Spirit. Because if you give everything over to Holy Spirit, then you're free. Because when you trust life, and I'm reading right now The End of Death, Sanchez's book. I had gotten it years ago. I never went to any of her stuff, and I don't want to go to any teacher's stuff. But the book itself didn't speak to me years ago. Now it does. And it's all about this on how we, the end of death, somebody would say, well, what does that even mean? But it means the end of the ego. And that's basically what we're all in this to do. And what I find this group does for me, it keeps me like regulated in a place where I know, well, Tuesdays I do this, but I also feel that the people in our group are like pretty much on the same page as all of us. It just seems that way, where we all get that there really is no us. There's no person. There's just this voice, And I want to say one thing about last night. Robert, your writings were profound. Profound. When I say I could not believe that reading last night, that oh God, I'm having a mental block, but that's okay. Deb read. Oh my God, that was just amazing to me. Like, here's the thing, Robert, if you never read the course, see, the course is set up for us with those lessons to wake us up. That's the difference. But where we're all at now, your writings are just it's so in sync with everything. And it's all coming from the same teacher that Helen spoke to. You can just feel it. Of course, it's only one teacher anyway. Anyway, the first step in the awakening process is what I sometimes call recognition. Now, that is the truth, the recognition of knowing, like, how the Course always says you'll remember God. Well, there is a memory. It's the memory of this space. And it's, It's the Tao, the Ching, it's the darkness, it's all of it. It is a taste of something more real than real, something that lights a spark inside of you. It is my intention that reading this right now is the moment for you. I hope that by sharing this story with you, I planted a seed in you, just as that lecture did in me so many years ago. Yes, awakening is a real thing, and it can happen to you. There is no doubt. You know, it's a funny thing about awakening, it just never stops. It's a progression of like a flower that is opening up its petals. That's what it is, and it's slow, but it's beautiful. If there's only one thing you can take away from reading this entire book, hopefully, it's that awakening is absolutely possible. Now, I want to stop and just say, I never thought of enlightenment. I was not like Lynn. I did not have a background like that. I thought that enlightenment was just for these people that were monks or that were in India. And even when I started the path, I didn't even, the thing that grabbed me with the course was it was peace. And, we're all in that now, that peaceful state. But the idea that it is simple, but you need a teaching or something that it's a call from within for you to do this. That's the way I see it. Anyway, even if you read no further than this sentence, yet you can simply glimpse at the possibility of a living truth that is more vast, free, and real than the ways you typically experience life, then this endeavor was worth the effort. Oh, look what you wrote, Robert. For my degree, comp religion was affected, loved it. I don't know what that is, comp religion. Okay. I've seen people wake up many times. I've observed awakening and
Comparative
realization.
religion he was talking about.
What was he
Comparative
talking about?
religion. Comparative religion.
Oh, comparative. Okay.
They have that in a lot of schools. But it was a required because of my business degree.
It's just no wonder when you came in our group and to gather, you had a background and you were being shut down. Mainly from Teddy, who, by the way, was doing the best he could, but he wanted to believe that he was the teacher, not you. And you knew more than he did. That's what I thought anyway. Not that it mattered, because it was the beginning of you seeing that you still had stuff. And everyone that does trigger us is a gift, an actual gift, because you're not even that. I have seen people wake up many times. I've observed awakening and realization from many sides and perspectives, and have made an exhaustive study of exactly how this process unfolds and what the obstructions are that can hinder it. I have done this for one reason, so I can impart it to you. It's your turn now. I love that he did that. That's beautiful. Does anyone, Marsh, you want to read? Are you there?
Yeah, I can read.
Okay. Because we could take turns. That way Lynn doesn't have to
Yeah.
use her voice that much. Because I think she has, still an ongoing bronchitis. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Awake, it's your turn. Chapter 1, A Word of Caution. The ultimate adventure. Every human on the face of the earth has the capacity to live a life of spontaneity, peace, and wonder beyond what can be imagined. You have the potential to put an end to suffering in this lifetime. It is natural to have doubts when hearing statements like these. As a discerning reader, you might be wondering, is this an exaggeration or is this some sort of positive thinking strategy? I assure you this is no exaggeration and it has nothing to do with positive thinking. These are simple statements of truth that I found to be accurate again and again in those who are willing to sincerely investigate their deepest nature. By the way, your deepest nature happens to be synonymous with the deepest nature of the cosmos. Out of that variety arises the fundamental and unshakable realization of interconnectedness and synchronicity with all things, beings, and situations. Many people, myself included, have gone through this process and have been astounded again and again by the ever-deepening clarity and radical absorption into all of life. It truly is the ultimate adventure. Luke Skywalker, I won't fail you. I'm not afraid. Yoda, grimly, oh, you will be. You will be. With all of that said, I would be remiss in my duties if I didn't caution you on a few points. It goes without saying that no endeavor of this magnitude comes without discomfort, change, and sacrifice. While these elements will certainly come into play, it may not be in the ways you might think. This process isn't about dropping out of life to meditate in a cave for years on end. It isn't about giving up all your mental possessions. It isn't about giving your will over to some religious figure or system. In a sense, it's more challenging than any of those scenarios. This is about waking up in your life exactly as it is. Stated this way, it may not sound like sacrifice, change, or discomfort will be necessary, but make no mistake about it, you will be challenged in ways that will surprise you and that you can't really prepare for. You will see things in yourself that you never knew were there. In fact, you will face every distorted belief and repressed emotion that is hidden inside you at one point or another. What's more, the old strategies of avoidance, distraction, and resistance will become less viable options as realization deepens. You will never be left empty-handed or completely out in the cold. You will be given many tools to navigate these sometimes unpredictable and challenging waters, but you will have to navigate them. There will be shifts in the way you perceive reality. There will be moments when you feel disoriented. Those moments will pass. There will also be times when you, or at least part of you, will wish you had never begun this journey. Those times will pass as well. You will never be given more than you can tolerate, but this will not always be a walk in the park either. You won't face this process courageously or even by choice. The investigations, contemplations, and practices described in this book are exceptionally potent. By following them, you are initiating a process that will in many ways overtake you. That may sound scary, but the you that is overtaken is a limited version of what you truly are. This false identity must be seen through in order to wake up to the boundless and timeless reality that is your essential nature. We will be working at the level of your identity, which is the most foundational sense of who you are and what you take yourself to be. This is the most radical transformation that is available to you in this lifetime, bar none. I'm neither saying these things to scare nor impress you. I'm saying them simply because they are true. Anyone I've worked with who has genuinely taken up this investigation will tell you that this is no exaggeration. It leads to processes that cannot be undone once started. Please keep in mind, first and foremost, the techniques, contemplations, and inquiries described in this book are extremely potent. These transformations occur at the identity level. Alterations and disentanglements will occur in the fabric of what makes you. Unconscious places will become fully conscious. You will see things you don't always want to see in yourself. You are voluntarily coming into contact with forces that are vastly more powerful than you or anyone can begin to imagine. Awakening plays out its own schedule, not yours. There will be aspects of this process that seem to be taking way too long. There will also be aspects of this process that come way too fast for your comfort. There will be experiences and events along this path that will surprise you. In many ways, this is a mysterious process, and things will arise at times and in ways that you cannot prepare for. Ultimately, this turns out to be okay because you have the innate capacity to integrate these eventualities. You do have the capacity for this. Just know it is largely dormant. Therefore, some internal shifts will have to occur to allow you to tap into it. If this all sounds like what you are interested in, then great. You will find this to be the adventure of all adventures. If it's not your priority at this time in life, then by all means put it aside and pursue what most authentically moves you. This book will always be available if you choose to return and readdress this matter. There is no judgment from me or the universe. If you genuinely feel that it is your path to be an exceptional parent and raise a family, then that is exactly what you should be doing. If you want to throw yourself fully into art and music, then that is exactly what you should do. If you feel genuinely moved to pursue a life of scientific investigation, then by all means go do that. This is your life. So doing what feels most authentic and relevant to you, regardless of social expectations, is what will be most fulfilling. Liberation or bust. If you decide to begin this undertaking or feel that awakening process is already unfolding for you, then I strongly urge you to take it to completion. In actuality, there is no absolute completion. However, in this context, I mean until the progression of awakening becomes spontaneous and individual suffering ends for you in this life. The word I will use for that stage is liberation. Liberation will be explained in detail later in this book. It can be a painful and confusing place to find yourself when the awakening process has begun and then is abandoned after some initial insight. Most of the time this occurs, it is because there is confusing, contradictory, and/or uninformed guidance out there. This is especially true with the later stages of realization. The ubiquity of confusing and contradictory guidance is one of the major reasons this book was written. You will be given the tools needed to take this process to liberation. As well, you will be versed in the many potential pitfalls along the way and how to avoid them. It is on me to make sure you have clear, adaptable, and effective means by which to navigate each stage of the process. It is on you to do the work. Quote underneath, nothing is so fatiguing as the eternal hanging on of an uncompleted task.
That was beautiful. Now I'm just wondering, Robert just wrote something. In a way, ACIM is a doctorate level course that is studied by students of all grade levels. Gratefully, the Holy Spirit reveals the truth, of course, at the level where we are. Yeah, the book is brilliant. The book drove me crazy too. Anyway, can you guys hear me? Can somebody? Oh, Deb's here too.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah.
Okay, because I couldn't hear Marcy. It was my computer. It had to
Oh,
turn off. I couldn't hear her for the first 20 minutes. But Marcy, want to continue, or does Deb want to read, or whoever
does
wants?
anybody want to say anything about what we've
Yeah,
just?
the sharing is so important with a book like this. It is, Lynn. Thank you.
I'm just, thinking myself that, yeah, this kind of, once you've begun, it's done. That's it. Once you recognize, this is what I want, then you can run into all sorts of other things and do all sorts of other things. And, like me, I said, that this is what I want, but then, I had children and I had, and then what I wanted was for them to have a good life. For them to have a good life, I had to go to school and complete my education and get a good job and buy a house and have uh, cars and travel and do, all the things that you do as a parent and all the things that you do as an employee, all the things you do as a wife or a husband, all of those things, you're doing all those things. And what I love about this book is he's saying, do it, do all those things, do the things that you want to do, because once you have begun this process, it will complete itself in you. And so it doesn't matter what you do. Um, you're going to find it everywhere you look, and in everything that you experience is going to be an experience that's going to lead you to this awakening. And honestly, I went through, as many of us have, lots of ups and downs and highs and lows, and I told you, for years after, I mean, this is terrible. When I think about it now, I'm like, oh my God, what the hell was I thinking? um, After my sister committed suicide, for years, I was so depressed and so determined that eventually I was going to kill myself, because that just seemed to be the only logical thing. Because I didn't even think of everything that happened to me in my life reaffirmed that to me. Everything, I mean, I had all this stuff happen with, my losing my balance, and all these different things happen, and it all seemed to be like, you know life was in the way, but every single thing led to the deeper and deeper and deeper commitment to awakening. And when I was on my, like, I was just, all right, I was suicidal. I was so self-destructive that I had been fired from 3 jobs in a row. Here I was, a professional person with a college degree and a career and a history and all this kind of stuff. And I just started like unwinding. I just started, like, everything just started falling apart. And so after the third job of, being fired, of, perfectly good, high paying job, I was working as a temporary worker. I was doing temp work for Manpower, and the job that they gave me, because I have 4 college degrees. So one of the college degrees I have is in technical writing. I'm not saying this to be bragging. I'm just saying this is, this is the path I went through that was just so convoluted. Um, but uh, the uh, uh, the job I had was to write a health and a safety manual for an entire system, like this huge. It's like a book that's like 3-4 inches. It's at least 3 inches thick. This book that I put together, and uh, I was just at the same time, I was ready to drive my car up to the top of the mountain and go over the cliff. Though that this was what was happening to me at this time. And I was so depressed. And I was sitting at lunch with my boss, and many of you have heard this story. I was sitting at lunch with my boss, and my boss, we were talking philosophy, etc. And he said to me, have you ever heard of this book called The Disappearance of the Universe? And I said, no, that sounds interesting. And so that day, it was either at lunch, or no, it was after work that day. I went over to Barnes and Noble, and I found that book. I found The Disappearance of the Universe. And I took it home and started reading it. That book never left my side. For like 5 years, I carried it with me everywhere. After I started reading it and understanding what was really happening, which, I mean, whatever you think about Gary Renard in that book, it was a mystical experience for me. I recognized, oh, this is it. And this was in December. Okay. So this was in December, right around Christmas time. So I went right away and got it for the Course of Miracles and started doing the lessons. And I joined a group online for the Disappearance of the Universe, which Marcy knows. And started, studying the Course of Miracles with people all over the world online, and started doing the lessons. And within probably 6 months, I mean, that this is really miraculous. Probably within 6 months, I had like turned over completely and realized that this was it. This was it. This was the only thing this was what I had been looking for like 40 years. And once I found it, I could not let it go. And you know, I had some wonderful teachers like Aussie Marie and Marcy here, and there was some Roger Villisinger, and there was a lot of really, really good teachers in that group, and I learned so much. And it led me then, not long after that, to because I that's where I first ran into Regina. It was in that group, and then she moved to Pueblo, and I started in I you know got with Dove, and I that's how I met Dove, was in that group. That's how all this came about, was when everything had fallen down to the point where I was ready to die. And then this thing came to me that was such a miracle, and seriously Course in Miracles, seriously Course in Miracles. And once I started that, it was like my life, I mean, it didn't completely, become like a dream, like wonderful things, but even the bad things that happened, like when I got in that accident, that seemed to be like the end of everything, because I couldn't even work anymore. And here I was now, didn't know what I was going to do, but bit by bit by bit by bit, things came and things shifted. And, now I live. Personally, I feel like I live like heaven. Honestly, I feel like my life is just a beautiful dream. Every moment, the morning I wake up in the morning and come in here and I join up with you guys. And all we do all day is talk about and look at and listen to these wonderful teachings that have brought about such a profound change in me. And so, be aware that whatever you think, the worst thing, that your downfall is the thing that is there to slap you in the face and say, wake up, stop dreaming. This is what's going on. And so, I'm so grateful. And this book I'm really excited about, because he does have practices in here. I think as we read about him, we will stop and do some practicing, and maybe, spend the week, whatever, uh, uh, between the readings. But we'll see how that works out. Anyway, that's really what I had to say. Does anybody else have any thoughts that they'd like to share before we go on? And Bob says, I'm amazed at how many students have come to Course in Miracles in a moment of suicidal ideation, myself included. Exactly, Bob, because that's what it takes. It takes getting to the place where you cannot live with that person anymore. It's like Eckhart Tolle, he said, he actually then just said, who is this who is talking to me? Who's this voice inside my head? That's saying these things that I can't stand. I can't stand myself. Who is that? uh, and that's what happens. So anyway, continuing. Who wants to continue reading?
I'm happy to read,
will.
Lynn.
Oh, Deb wants to read. Let her read. I love her voice. Okay, Deb, go ahead.
The Barrier of Belief. In coming chapters, we will investigate the nature of beliefs and how they affect our experience of reality. Interestingly, it doesn't matter what set of beliefs you have when you begin this journey. The nature of your beliefs ultimately has little to do with your ability to wake up. Whether you're a liberal or a conservative, religious or secular, Buddhist, Christian, or atheist makes little difference. What makes a considerable difference is how smoothly this process will go is not what you believe, but rather your relationship to beliefs themselves. To put it simply, if you are willing to question or at least examine your beliefs and let go of the ones that are found to be inaccurate or that cause you suffering, then you're in a good place as far as awakening is concerned. On the other hand, if you pride yourself on having strong and rigid beliefs and have no willingness to examine them at all, This will be an extremely difficult path for you. I didn't say impossible because it is still possible, but you will be fighting yourself at every turn. I will comment on that paragraph that, the recognition of fighting myself, I feel like has come a little bit from Keith Kavanaugh's talks. Don't fight yourself. And it says clearly in the course, don't fight yourself. But everyone's previous comments, I expressed last week that being in the pits of despair, which has been a reoccurring theme ever since I can remember, which is unusual and sometimes embarrassing. And at this point in our current world, you almost don't want to say out loud, I'm suicidal. I certainly don't want to say it in a doctor's office or in front of a police officer because I could be committed against my will. And that has been difficult to watch. It happened to my son. And, that's this message that something in me is flawed or broken or not good enough has been a part of me my whole life. I attempted suicide when I was only 12 years old. And when I woke up, my father and a police officer were sitting in the room. And I know I had the feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm here. I looked at my dad, we made eye contact, and then I said, why is a policeman here? And he said, because it's illegal to commit suicide. And it stuck with me, it stuck with me to never actually do it again. But the feeling of wanting to has never left, and entirely, except by the grace of God and except by the awareness of God. It's so beautiful to me to be in that place of what I call heaven, and and yet ego wins a lot. And the belief, when I was reading about belief, we all can see lie in the middle of the word, but for some reason, I almost said thief instead of belief. And I feel like in the scripture, the thief comes in the middle of the night, which is like the ego, the belief, the thief that will rob us of our heaven, that will rob us of our peace and joy and knowing that we are loved. And, I know my story is no different than anyone else's. I know that truly right now, that it's the story of the little ego who couldn't find love that's in all of us. Maybe some, I've questioned this. Are the people who are true to self, those happy-go-lucky people like my father that I was raised with, who never seems to sweat or stress, and yet he's a nervous Nelly, but he he's so sure and confident. Was he born awake? Like, did he know all along? I know that none of these questions they're my egoic questions to try to understand why suffering has been so great and so horrendous, and especially because I was born into such beauty and grace. I could almost say the garden, I've said it before, a father who loved me and a brother who was my favorite person on the whole planet, and handsome, and everything about him filled me to the brim. And, he did pass away in 2016, and he died of cirrhosis of the liver, and his end was agonizing, and it lasted more than 15 years. He couldn't could he not find, I mean, I was just reading about Alan Watts today. He drank himself to death and yet he appeared awake.
Deb, I've had my hand up. Can you
Okay,
hear
I'm
me,
sorry,
Deb?
honey.
No, I wanted to tell you that last week you helped me so much. I was at my son's and I was getting like a lot of, just a lot of dark thoughts. And when you had said you can't get past yourself, that is the last to go.
Yeah.
Every book I've read on a course. So the personal self is the last part of us to go. And the darkness that you're feeling a lot of times is what we all get. I know you said you don't think you're different, but I wanted to tell you how helpful you were to me. And I just love your voice. I love you. So I had to come out and
Well,
say
ditto, Sharon, when I first started coming on here, I felt disturbed by what I was hearing. And today I love you so much. I cannot tell you how much joining the group has helped because I've said it a million times, locked by ourselves, this is really hard work. And I believe that the gurus up on the mountaintop got it, but that's not how it's working for me. It's joining. It's the joining with you and Lynn and Marcy. I don't know you, but oh, God bless you all. And I'll
so great.
stop going on and on right here. I believe that I will be able to have a pain-free life, a mentally pain-free life, even if I can't overcome the physical. I believe so much in the Holy Spirit and the God the
You're not
Father.
necessarily going to be able, like, here's what Lynn wrote here, that I can't say his name, Chopin Trump, say it, Lynn. She put it on Alan Watts. There's two things going on here, and I didn't realize this. Wakefulness is not really part of the ego thought system. So you could still have a running ego and be what you would call awake. I don't know that the ego dies, it just gets a lot more relaxed. If you remember when you first came on here, I was having meltdowns about the president. Now
Weren't we all?
Yeah, I mean, guaranteed that guy is in that place just for that very thing.
That's
That guy's
exactly
in
right.
that place
Yeah.
for the slapping us in the face and telling us to wake up.
Yeah.
So,
Right. It's like you
Yeah.
take yourself
no,
seriously. There's nothing out there. You still have self-hatred. You still have self-hatred. And
Yeah.
that scared me too, because I knew I had self-hatred, but I didn't want to consciously know it, because then I would hate myself. So, I mean, when I think about the people that are in our group, Lynn, everybody's so honest. I was sitting at my son's on Thanksgiving, and that's why I wasn't here. And I listened to Deb, and it was like, God, I couldn't like just butt in. So I just wanted to save that for you, because the honesty, because we're in this together. And
Yeah.
what Lynn said is eventually it does that what I find is the personal self just ends up just surrendering more. But I still have quite a bit to go. I still have a lot of forgiveness still. So we're in this together, girlfriend. Okay, go ahead, read.
All righty. Are we out of time or should I read the next paragraph?
We have 6 more minutes, so yeah,
yeah,
you
we
could
have
go.
a few more minutes, but if we want to get, because we can I can mark the place because it's like
Okay.
a new section. I'm going to just mark this place and we can start this again next week. Because yeah, I was just going to say, you mentioned Alan Watts. That, of course, I listen to Alan Watts all the time. He was a great teacher for me, and he was a Zen Buddhist. But he drank all the time. If you see any videos of Alan Watts on stage, drinking and smoking, my teacher, Chokum Trungpa, he was the same way. He didn't smoke, but he was drinking all the time. And so, here's the man who he wrote the book, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. He interpreted the Tibetan Book of the Dead for the Western culture. He wrote uh, uh, oh gosh, almost I'm trying to think, so many great books anyway.
Yeah.
So many, at the same time, drunk off his ass. So then you have to understand that it is not the physical. They had to do that to put the physical body down
I
so
love
that
that.
they could actually be there. The physical body had to be sedated. And that's the way I look at it. It's like they were completely sedating their physical body so that they could overcome that and be able to express as the enlightened being that they were. Because if you could sit on a mountainside or sit in a cave and do this, then you would have that insulation from the world, insulation from people's society, all the whatever. You would have that insulation in the cave. You wouldn't need drugs or alcohol. But when you're out there on the stage in front of lots of people, I mean, traveling, if you ever read Trumpa's life, you'd be amazed at this man, the things that he did. But because he couldn't live in an insulated place. This is what I think was why he drank. And also because he had had a terrible car accident, actually, while he was driving drunk, and was pretty messed up physically from that. But yeah, I mean, that's how they got by. And so, when at that same time, Deb, I was mentioning this the other day, when I finally uh working for that temporary place, finally just said, all right, I've got to get a hold of myself. And I did go to the doctor, and I
Mm.
told the doctor, I want to kill myself, and I have already figured out how I'm going to do this. And she said, I mean, it scared her because she'd been my doctor for years. She didn't even know. And so what she did, instead of, put me in the hospital, which she could have done, she gave me mood elevator, amitriptyline. It is
Mm.
an old drug, but it works really good, freaking amazingly. And then also, uh, what it starts with a Z, Zoloft. And so I took those drugs. I took Zoloft and amitriptyline, and I took those for years. And
Mm.
I had a teacher who I really wanted to work with, but he said, I won't work with you if you're taking those drugs. And I said, well, I don't think I can stop taking these drugs because I think I'll probably kill myself. So, as much as I'd like to work with you, I can't. And I didn't. And I kept using those. I kept taking that I probably took that for 10 years before I finally just realized I don't need this. And I just
Mm.
stopped taking them, and I was perfectly fine, and
Yeah.
no more depression. I mean, I am not depressed at all under any circumstance. It's crazy because it's like such a freedom. And the
Yeah, but
reason
you
I'm
can
saying,
take stuff if you, and Deb, if you ever feel like really bad, you can take something. It's not going to affect the wakefulness. It'll
oh
just make
no,
it easy.
no, because you have to get that ego down.
You got
Mm.
whichever way you can, because some people
Yeah,
have worse egos than others. That's all. I
there's
think that Alan Watts is one of the clearest teachers. And like Nisargadatta Maharaj has said, when people would say, well, you're smoking like a chain smoker, he said, what does it have to do with me? He
right,
said the
Yeah.
same thing Keith said. You can take what you want, you act like a regular person, but wakefulness is in the awareness for me is alive now, and I really believe that we set out with so much egoic belief. For Lynn that worked, for someone it might not, but whatever it is, it has not. You're not failing ever. You can't
right,
be. Everybody's in this together.
And
exactly.
that's what Keith talked, not this week, but the week before, was you can believe whatever you want, but when are you going to forgive? Like,
Yeah, I love that he said that.
because
He's
any
my
belief,
guy.
any belief has its opposite. We can all see that. What I say today could be totally different tomorrow. So the belief doesn't matter. When are we going to forgive? And that forgiveness leads to that acceptance of our truest self, the Son of God.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is the end of our time. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Thank you who are listening to us on YouTube. I see there are some folks, and grateful for you being here. And if you are on our YouTube channel, if you look up in the, let me just fix the, let me just show you this. So let me, if I can, go to our YouTube. If you are on our YouTube channel, I'm just going to give this information here. Go back over here and share. All right, here we go. If you're listening to us on YouTube, right there, if you go up here, where right in this place here, there are a couple of links, and they're the link to our radio. So if you click on that, then it'll open up another little window, and you can put it on your whatever player you use, or just listen to it from the window. But that's our radio. Or you can click on here, and it'll take you over to our website. Just like I'll do a little educational thing. All right, and here on our website, we have our weekly schedule. So you can come here and see we've been reading Awake It's Your Turn, and then next we're going to read Living Untethered. Then it's got our schedule for the day. And then also here's a link that you could click on that will take you to the radio. So you can listen on the radio, or you can go click on over here and go back to YouTube. So it's a circular situation. But yeah, if you're watching us on YouTube, join us. And if the other thing I didn't show is that I might get into a untenable singular circularity here. If you do click on Living Untethered with Sharon and Lynn, there's the link to come into the Zoom room. So all you have to do is click that, and you can come right in and join us on Zoom. So all of these things are, this is this is the beautiful technology that we have to join in any way that, or many ways. But we're always here for you. And we are on 24/7, all right? It shows that we're playing spiritual audios after a certain hour, but that we're on 24/7. So you can definitely come to the radio. Basically is where you would find it. If you go to the radio, there's something playing all day, and there's people in this room I know that listen on the radio. So I'm grateful for you all. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close this out, this YouTube. And of course, if you're watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe.